I wish all of you a very pleasant and a very fruitful third Sunday of Easter. Here we are, and we are confronted once again with the inability to be together. But the fact is that we are together, thank goodness for the gift of technology, but we are together too in our prayer, our own, for lack of a better way of phrasing all of this, private and personal prayer. We are united in that way. When we do come together again to celebrate Eucharist, maybe our life and our faith community in particular will be all the more vibrant because now we know who we are and who we are asked to now continue to become because of Jesus, the risen Christ. In that spirit, I want to read today the gospel. And as we come and as we pray the gospel according to Luke, we hear, of course, of a beautiful story, the Emmaus story. And consider this as your prayer for the third Sunday of Easter. That very day, the first day of the week, two of Jesus' disciples were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus. And they were conversing about all the things that had occurred. And it happened that while they were conversing and debating, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them. But their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped. Looking downcast, one of them, named Cleopas, said to him in reply, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know of the things that have taken place there in these days?" And he replied to them, "What sort of things?" They said to him, "The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, how our chief priests and rulers both handed him over to a sentence of death and crucified him. But we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel. And besides all this, it is now the third day since this took place." Some women from our group, however, have astounded us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. They came back and reported that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who announced that he was alive. Then some of those with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women had described, but him they did not see. And he said to them, "Well, how foolish you are! How slow of heart to believe all that the prophets spoke! Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them what referred to him in all the scriptures. As they approached the village to which they were going, he gave the impression that he was going on farther, but they urged him, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them, and it happened that while he was with them at table, he took bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. With that, their eyes were opened and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. Then they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he spoke to us on the way and opened the scriptures to us?" So they set out at once and returned to Jerusalem, where they found gathered together the 11 and those with them who were saying, "The Lord has truly been raised and has appeared to Simon." Then the two recounted what had taken place on the way and how he was made known to them in the breaking of bread. Many people love this story. And if you ask them, "Well, what is it about this story, this journey to Emmaus, which is so inviting? Why do you like it? Why do you love it?" They cannot say. It just touches them in a particular kind of a way. I think that is exactly what happened on the road to Emmaus. These early disciples of Jesus encountered the living Christ, even though they did not necessarily recognize him initially, but they were touched by him and they could not really explain it. Something happened in which they were drawn to this mystery of Jesus, so much so that they finally did recognize him. And my guess, too, they recognized others. What did they find that happened that allowed them to recognize Jesus? Well, the way that he recited the scriptures, referred to the scriptures, namely the word, but also in the breaking of the bread. Is that not what happens every time we come to Eucharist on Sunday? We recognize the risen Jesus, and we recognize one another in the proclamation of the word and in the breaking of the bread. We encounter Jesus, the risen Christ. Maybe we do not know how to verbalize that, but just as those early apostles and disciples wished Jesus to be with them, stay with us, stay the night. That is what we, I think, subconsciously say every time we go to Sunday Mass and we hear the word and we share in the breaking of the bread. God, stay with us. Be our hope, be our life. Those early apostles and disciples were downcast. They had put their lives literally into the very heart of Jesus. This Jesus was the one who was going to turn their life around, and now they missed him. Well, I think because of this pandemic, we miss him too, especially as we encounter him in the proclamation of the word and in the breaking of the bread. We too are downcast, and yet our hope is that sooner or later we will be together to hear the word, to share it in the breaking of the bread, and it will be, once again, an opportunity for all of us to come to know what it means to be disciples. Remember, the word disciple means learner. We learn a little bit about God now because of this global health crisis. We learn a little bit about others. We learn a little bit about ourselves. We are enlightened, just as those disciples that we heard about just a few moments ago in the Gospel according to Luke. May our eyes be opened, our ears be opened, but all the more important, our minds and especially our hearts as to what God offers to us and now what we can offer to one another. Enjoy your Sunday, this Sunday, the day of the resurrection.